Welcome back to another episode of the Face Mask Podcast, everybody. In this podcast, we go over NHL and NFL news, and we just state our opinions and all that fun stuff. But in this episode, we are going to be talking about NHL and I. This is Orb speaking. This is just going to be a little mini episode. We're going to be ranking every NHL team before the season starts. Now, technically, by the time this is posted, the season will have started, but it's only going to be the first game. So we're not going to count it. We're just going to act like I actually posted this on time. Anyway, we got 5 tiers. Stanley Cup tier, clear cup contenders. We got the playoff tier, people who will most likely make the playoffs. Wild card hunt, teams that if everything goes their way, they will make the wild card most likely. Then we got a bad tier. They're not going to be even close to playoffs and probably don't got a chance at wild card. And then rebuild stage, just absolutely one of the bottom of the barrel teams that should just rebuild and focus on free agency and drafting. First team up is going to be the Anaheim Ducks. I'm going to select them in the wildcard spot. The Anaheim Ducks had the worst power play in the NHL last year, and with additions of solid veterans like Mikael Granlund and Chris Kreider, and legendary coach Joel Quenneville, breakout stars like Jackson Lacombe and Mason McTavish, and the young goalie Lucas Dostal would need to produce good years for the Ducks to reach a wildcard spot, but I think it's definitely possible. The Ducks did, like I said, have the worst power play in the year, but I think they'll improve on that, especially with the 3-time Stanley Cup coach that they got, Joel Quenneville. Mikael Granlund's also been proven himself. I don't like a lot of the D-man in Anaheim, but I'm sure they'll get over that. And like I said, everything would need to go their way for them to make a wildcard spot, but I wouldn't say it's ridiculous. Now we got the Boston Bruins. I don't think there's just enough goal scorers on this team. I'm going to go ahead and put them in the rebuilding tier. So, like I said, not enough goal scorers. It's literally just Pastrnak who can lead an offense. And don't get me wrong, I like Morgan Geekie, Elias Lindholm, and Pavel Zacha, but those guys aren't game-changing. I wouldn't rely on them to lead an offensive unit by themselves. And also, Jeremy Swayman, he got paid last year, and he had a very mid-year. He is going to need to produce a lot better. I don't see a lot of star power on the Bruins, even though they had one of the best star powers for the past decades. It's not quite there anymore. It's mainly just Pastrnak by himself. Now we have the Buffalo Sabres. I'm going to put them in wildcard hunt. Yes, the Sabres have a chance to end their 14-year playoff drought and sneak into a wildcard spot. They have proven young stars like Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, Bo Byram. I even like Jack Quinn and UPL, even though UPL has had up and downs so far in his young career. He can still be a really solid goalie. The only thing that really worries me about the Buffalo Sabres is the consistent center play, because Tage Thompson will probably play the majority at right wing. I mean, they put him at center sometimes, but they'll probably be at right wing. And I think the young centerman, Yuri Kulich, he's going to get a lot of NHL minutes this year, and he's kind of their X factor. Depending on how good he is, because they're not really that deep at the center position. Now we got the Carolina Hurricanes. They're going to be the first team up in the Stanley Cup contention, and I think that's pretty obvious. They have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals like 3 years in a row now. The very good team. I think Logan Stankoven will have another great year. And they signed 29-year-old winger Nikola Ehlers, who's coming off his 2 best years in Winnipeg. And Frederik Andersen is obviously a stud. All right, now we got the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'm going to go ahead and put them in the wild card hunt. Adam Fantilli is amazing at hockey, and he had an impressive year, and so did Zach Werenski. And I think Zach Werenski will have another Norris caliber season like he did last year. But I think Columbus kind of lacks star power, if you're being honest. Other than Adam Fantilli and Zach Werenski, it's a lot of mid on that roster. And other than that, if goaltending wasn't so bad, I just don't like the goaltending in Columbus. I really don't. I think it could be a lot better. So I think they would need to go and sign or trade for a better netminder if they actually do want to make the wild card or even make some noise in the playoffs. All right, now the Calgary Flames are up, and I'm going to put them in the bad category. And I like Mackenzie Weegar and Rasmus Anderson, one of the most underrated D-man duos. And Dustin Wolf had an amazing year. Other than that, they don't have a great offense. It's just very lackluster. And it was the fourth worst scoring team in the NHL last year. They need to find a way to score goals. They didn't add anybody to the offense worth mentioning. So I don't see why it would really improve. So the Flames are just going to stay in the bad category until they actually make some additions to their offense and actually do something. I also believe Jonathan Huberdeau is going to miss some time as well, and he was one of their better offensive pieces, so they're going to be having little to no offense this year. So now I got the Chicago Blackhawks, and they had no huge additions in the offseason, so I'm going to put them in the rebuilding stage, but don't worry, Blackhawks fans. I think after this season, you guys will actually become a solid team. I think this is going to be one of the last years where it's painful to watch Blackhawks hockey. I think Connor Bedard's going to figure it out. I think Frank Nazar is going to do good as well. But they had no huge additions in the offseason. Like I said, only thing that really gives them hope is Connor Bedard and Frank Nazar. I think they'll have breakout seasons. I did love the Spencer Knight trade last season. It was around the midseason or trade deadline, I guess, when they got Spencer Knight, and I think he's going to be your starting netminder for a while. Now we got the Colorado Avalanche, and obviously Stanley Cup contender, no question about it there. And I don't really think I need to explain myself, but I guess I'll go into it a little bit. So Colorado, they were slow starters last year because they had Georgiev, and he was really bad. They couldn't get a single save out of him. They traded for Mackenzie Blackwood, and I think he'll be good. I think Barty Natchez is also a great addition. They're going to have Gabriel Landeskog for the first time in 3 years for a regular season. Obviously, they got Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon, just a really stacked roster all around, well-coached, and just a well-talented team. Of course, they're going to be in cup contention. I mean, one of the best teams, and one of the best teams in the Central as well. So yes, obviously, the Colorado Avalanche will be in the Stanley Cup contention. And speaking about one of the best teams in the Central, Dallas Stars are actually up next, and they finished first in the Central last year, I believe. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they did finish first. I love watching Jason Robertson and Wyatt Johnson play hockey, and obviously Mikko Rantanen being there for a whole full season will be a major help to the offense that is already stacked. Like, they just have so much depth. They also have Matt Duchene. They just got so many big names. Thomas Harley and Mario Heiskanen are very good. And let's not forget that Jake Otter, is one of the best goalies in the league. He already has one of the best D groups, and he's one of the best goalies in the league. Now we got the Detroit Red Wings, and I'm going to go ahead and put them in the bad category along with the Calgary Flames. Unfortunately for the Red Wings, they play in a tough Atlantic division. They have a solid first line in Lucas Raymond, Dylan Larkin, and Alex DeBrincat. I actually think that's a pretty solid first line, but they lack depth offensively. Other than that, they have Patrick Kane, and then that's really it. I don't like just about anybody else they have. The blue line is very weak. It's just Mort Seider, and the penalty kill was dead last year, so they need penalty killers. And I don't like John Gibson being their full-time starter. I'm going to be honest, I just don't. I think John Gibson at least needs an average D group ahead of him, and they're not offering that in Detroit. Now we got the Edmonton Oilers, and obviously they're going to be Stanley Cup contenders. 2 straight Cup appearances. They obviously have the talent, but are known to be way, way too top-heavy. I think the additions of Andrew Mangiapane will help their depth, but it is more than just depth. They also need consistent goaltending from Stuart Skinner, or just to move on from him in general. I don't care what it is, whatever works will work, but either make this guy be consistent or ship him out of there and get somebody else, because the Oilers cannot keep doing this. Obviously, they re-signed Connor McDavid for 2 years, $12.5 million just recently, and they're basically saying, hey, if we don't win in these 2 years, we're going to lose McDavid, and I think McDavid is definitely leaving. Florida Panthers, they are going to be the first team in the playoffs category. Obviously, they should be Stanley Cup contenders and things like that, but the only reason they are back into the playoffs is because, or the only reason they're only in the playoff spot, not the cup category, is because they're going to be missing Alexander Varkov for the whole full seaon. Matthew Tkachuk is going to be missing the first 2 months. Now, this team is obviously still very, very stacked without those two, but those are their two best players. And then probably Bob is their third best if I had to go on rankings. So their two best players, they're going to be missing. I mean, one's only for 2 months, but one's for the full season. So I'm sorry, Panthers fans, you guys realistically should be in cup contention. But, I mean, it's just hard to do with your two best players being missing significant time. Los Angeles Kings, they're going to be in the playoff spot as well. You have to talk about the Vezina caliber season Darcy Kemper just had. I mean, that was amazing. And then obviously they got Anze Kopitar's last year. I think they're going to be battling hard for that. And then the loss of Vladislav Gavrikov will be rough. And there were really no big additions in this offseason for the Los Angeles Kings. They got Corey Perry, and I think that was really it. Oh, and Cody Ceci. So, nothing huge there, but obviously Andre Kempe, Kevin Fiala, Kopitar, they're going to be good. I don't like how they didn't replace Vladislav Gavrikov with a nice, solid defensive defenseman. That will be a crucial loss for the Kings, and they will find out later in the season that they are missing a solid D-man, but obviously they should still make playoffs. Minnesota Wild easily can make playoffs if they stay healthy, so they're going to be in the playoff category. I think if Kirill Kaprizov stays healthy, they can make playoffs. And Kaprizov actually just got paid a lot of money. He remains their biggest playmaker. They have a solid young core in Joel Eriksson-Ek, Matt Boldy, Marco Rossi, and Brock Faber, and Kaprizov, obviously. And then also, on top of that, Philip Gustafsson. I like Philip Gustafsson a lot. I know sometimes he can be a little inconsistent, but he's still a major piece to that Wild team. And when you talk about young cores, the Canadians are up next, and I'm going to put them in the wild card hunt. And they did make the wild card last year, and they could easily do it again. But the Canadians, they're just a young team, so maybe the lack of experience will affect them a little bit. But they do have a talented roster. They added Noah Dobson this offseason. Even though they did just get a consistent season and a pretty solid season from their netminder, I'm just not a huge fan of him. But anyway, adding Noah Dobson alongside with the calendar winner in Lane Hudson, you got Nick Suzuki, who is also good. I like Cole Caulfield. Just a lot of solid names up in Montreal. Now the Nashville Predators, and I'm going to put them in the rebuilding category. They really didn't think they would be rebuilding 2 years ago when they spent big money on Steven Stamkos, but that money did not pay off. Stammer got 27 goals and 53 points last season, which wouldn't be too bad for an average player, but Stamkos was one of the league's best superstars. I think their right wingers are a very weak position. I don't really like any of their defensemen besides Roman Josi, honestly, and that might be a little bit of a controversial take. And even Roman Josi has been on a slight decline, very slight, but still, he's getting slightly older. And normally I'm a big fan of netminder UC Saros, but the last 3 years, his goals against average has went up, and then the last 2 years, his save percentage has went down. So everything's on a decline for the Nashville Predators, and I don't understand why. Now, the New Jersey Devils, I added them to the playoffs, if you guys didn't see. Kind of the Predators and Devils together there. And obviously, if you're listening on Spotify, you didn't get to see it, but that's why I'm saying all these out loud. Anyway, New Jersey Devils easily can be a playoff team. They were last year. Very great team, easily making playoffs. Even though in general their offense is good. It is a good offense, don't get me wrong. It just needs to be a little bit more consistent at times. I feel like Nico Hischier is one of the most underrated centers in the entire game. People don't understand how great he is defensively, I feel like. And Luke Hughes, I think he will develop more into a stud and he will get a bigger role. And he got paid like it. He is now the highest paid Hughes brother in the NHL, so that is something interesting. Did he quite deserve it yet? No, but I think he will be a stud anyway. New York Islanders, I'm going to put them in the bad category. Now, I feel bad for Ilya Sorokin. He will probably be left out to dry again as the Islanders create little to no offense again. Matthew Schaefer is a stud, but I think he'll kind of have a slow start to the year, if not have a mediocre rookie year. That happens a lot to young defensemen. So it's nothing against Matthew Schaefer. I think he will be a stud. I just think his first year, He's still going to be just getting his feet wet. And if the Islanders do want to make some noise, Matthew Barzal is going to need to stay healthy and improve on his game, as he's been on a little bit of a decline after he's made multiple all-star appearances. So I don't know what's up with that, but Barzal stays healthy. But I think the Islanders are still not a great team. That is why they're going to be putting them in the bad category. Now we got the New York Rangers, and I'm going to put them in the wild card hunt. Now, I don't think it's a for sure, but I mean, the Rangers have to come back from that season, right? That was a pretty rough season for New York Rangers hockey. So having JT Miller for a full season, I think that will help improve things a lot. I think there will also be times where they'll miss Chris Kreider not being on their power play anymore. And then that is where the Rangers are going to need Mika Zibanejad to step up. And he needs to attempt more shots. On the last 3 years, Mika Zibanejad has been on a decline. And I feel like I'm talking about a lot of people going on a decline. But, I mean, it's just happening. It's a part of age. But Mika Zibanejad, I don't know if he's losing confidence. But in the power play, he is just not shooting the puck as much as he should. I already mentioned Vladislav Gavrikov earlier in the video, and he's one of my favorite offseason moves in all of the NHL. It's exactly what the Rangers need, a physical D-man who eliminates zone entries. And I like Igor Shesterkin, and I think he'll have a bounce-back year, and I think Vladislav Gavrikov will definitely help Igor have a bounce-back year. Now we have the Ottawa Senators, and I'm going to put them in playoffs. They should make playoffs. It should be a guarantee that they make playoffs again. I mean, Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, Dylan Cousins are all good forwards that are young. I like Jake Sanderson. He had an amazing breakout year last year. And then Linus Ullmark, I mean, I know he's 32, but oh my God, it's like he's just rejuvenated his career. I don't know what it is, but he's doing really good with the centers. And obviously Thomas Chabot is going to be on the ice quite a bit, and he's always been a solid D-man his whole career. I mean, nothing like Jake Sanderson. I would say Jake Sanderson is definitely the best D-man, and I could see him being averaging the most time on ice easily. But Tim Stützle, just the way he can generate an offense and get him going, they should be able to make playoffs. Now the Philadelphia Flyers, and I'm going to go and put them in the bad category. The goaltending is just god-awful in Philly, and it doesn't matter if it's Samuel Ersson. They signed Dan Vladimir, I believe, and it's just, oh my God, the Flyers goaltending is so bad. So anyway, I liked the offseason addition of Trevor Zegras, and I think he'll do great things in Philly, and I'm excited to see Michkov's second year, and Travis Konecny being the leader in points for the Flyers should help, but they'll get outscored almost every night with their very poor goaltending. And now the other team in Pennsylvania, we got the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I'm going to put them in the rebuilding stage. Yeah, I am going to do that. I don't think Sidney Crosby will let them become a rebuilding team, but I think just the talent on the roster is just about gone from everybody besides Sidney Crosby. Almost everyone on the Penguins is simply not that good or just out of their prime besides Sidney Crosby. Erik Karlsson, I've never been a huge fan of. I've always thought he'd been overrated. I thought he always hurt teams more than he helps just because he is way, way too offensive. His plus-minus is always bad. Chris Letang, he's all right, but he's definitely out of his prime. Malkin, I think they'll still get a somewhat solid season on a Malkin, but he's definitely out of his prime as well. Now, I am going to actually put the San Jose Sharks, even though they were the worst team in the league last year, I'm going to put them in the bad category and not rebuilding category. And I know a lot of people are probably going crazy about that, especially after they've seen I put the Predators, Blackhawks, and Penguins in the rebuilding category, but not the Sharks. But hear me out. I am getting ready for a big year for the Sharks. I think it's just going to be better all around in all aspects. Yaroslav Askarov was one of the best NHL goalie prospects, and he's going to be getting full-time minutes. Then Macklin Celebrini, we're going to see a full year of him without being injured for a month, hopefully, and I think he'll just improve his game. I think Will Smith will also improve his game. I think William Eklund will even develop even more into a better hockey player, and they've had a rough defense for the last 3 to 4 years, and GM Mike Greer went out and made plenty of moves for the blue line, signing Dmitry Orlov, John Klingberg, and Nick Leddy, and They have a young defenseman from the London Knights who always produce good talent, Sam Dickinson, who is projected to get NHL minutes this year as well. Seattle Kraken, and they're going to go ahead and be in the bad category. It's just a very odd team with the Seattle Kraken, if you want me to be fully honest. They have a few solid players like Shane Wright, Capo Caco, Vince Dunn, and Brandon Montour, but no true superstar and that's what they desperately need, if you want to be honest. The Kraken, it's just a lot of, solid second liners and, no true superstar. It's just a very odd team in Seattle. Yeah, they desperately need a superstar, though. And I like Joey Decord and Vince Dunn. I would probably say those are my two favorite guys to watch on the Kraken. But like I said, they just need star power, and they don't have any of that in Seattle right now. So that is why they're going to go ahead and get lumped into the bad category. In the wild card hunt, it is going to be the St. Louis Blues. Made wild card last year. I think they could easily sneak into another wild card spot. I don't like how they gave up on their young promising winger, Zachary Bolduc. But I think this team always plays hot towards the end of the year, so they could sneak into a spot. Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, definitely some big X factors for the St. Louis Blues. Jake Neighbors is a nice guy that they got too. Nice grit and grind guy. I also like Colton Parenko. I always think he's been a solid D-man. So, Blues, obviously, when you talk about the Blues, you got to talk about Binnington. And he's very inconsistent, but, whenever it's a clutch moment, normally Binnington comes up in the most clutch moments that there is. So, yeah, if it's late in the season, watch out for the Blues. They always catch fire for some reason. Anyway, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I think it's pretty easy. They're going to be Stanley Cup contenders. As long as Kucherov, Victor Hedman, and Vasilevsky are all on the same team, the Lightning will always be a Cup contender. And they also have Jake Getzel for, they had him last year, but I think he'll be even better this year. Brayden Point as well. A lot of star power on that team. A lot of people are going to be fearing the Lightning. I think people kind of forgot how good they were just because Kucherov was injured 2 years ago, and then last year he almost won the Art Ross, or maybe he did. I can't remember if he did or not. But yeah, Kucherov almost won the Art Ross. So people are going to see how good Kucherov is. I also got a prediction. I think Jake Getzel will have an 85-plus point season this year. I don't think that's that crazy to say. Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm going to go ahead and put them in the playoff category. Now, they easily could have been Cup contenders, but I think losing Mitch Marner was a huge, huge loss, but they're still a very great team. Obviously, when you have Austin Matthews and William Nylander and Morgan Riley, you got a pretty good shot at winning the Cup. But are they going to be Cup contenders? I think that Mitch Marner loss is actually going to be pretty detrimental for them. At least it's going to look like in the regular season. And then even if they did have Mitch Marner, I don't think I would put them at Cup contenders just because how bad they choke in the playoffs. How bad of a choke artist they really are. All right, now we got the Utah Mammoth. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, I know it's a Utah Hockey Club logo. Just ignore it. It's the only thing they had that I could put on there. So anyway, they're going to be in the wild card hunt, and that is only if every little thing goes in their direction. But I love how they traded for J.J. Peterka. I'm not going to lie, I really do. I like J.J. Peterka a lot when he was on the Sabres. I think he's a nice, solid winger, very efficient on the power play as well. I like Logan Coley and Clayton Keller. That team is going to be fast and energetic, and it will help elevate this offense. So if everything goes right for the Mammoth, they could sneak into a playoff spot. Will it be easy? Hell no. But it could happen. But, a lot would need to go their way. But they're very close to being in the bad section, but no. And the Vancouver Canucks, they're going to be the last team in the wild card spot. I think they're a very underrated defensive team. Obviously, Quinn Hughes isn't underrated because everyone knows how good he is, but just even their forwards generate a lot of defense as well. But I think the loss of JT Miller on paper looks bad. But think about it this way. They obviously was many locker room issues with JT Miller being there. Elias Pettersson did not like him. Elias Pettersson also had career lows in every major stat. So if he plays better, the Canucks can easily make a playoff spot. Elias Pettersson, I don't know, he was just very absent. So if he starts playing better, obviously it will make the whole team better because that is like one of the best players on the team by far, other than Quinn Hughes. And if Thatcher Demko can stay healthy, I think they could sniff a wild card spot. Now, obviously, that's a lot of people in the wild card hunt. Not everyone in there is gonna make it. So just because they're in the wild card hunt does not mean they're gonna make it. It just means they'll be within around 8 or 10 points of it. That is my theory of the wild card hunt. I know everyone has a little bit of a different definition, but that is mine at least. Now the Vegas Golden Knights are up, and it pains me to do this because I hate the Golden Knights. I really, really do, but they are obviously Stanley Cup contenders. I mean, they're a very great team, and they got even better with Mitch Marner. Obviously, Mitch Marner playmaker. He can score goals, but I would say he's more of a playmaker for sure. And then you put him on a line with Jack Eichel. They got Mark Stone. Pretty solid defensive team, although they did lose Alex Pietrangelo for the full season. That is going to be kind of a pretty brutal loss, but I still think they'll figure it out. I mean, they're a pretty good team. Adin Hill has been playing absolutely amazing with the Vegas Golden Knights, and is it just him being a product of good defense ahead of him, or is it him just being good himself? I don't know. I guess we'll see, but the Vegas Golden Knights are obviously a very good team. Washington Capitals, they're also going to be Stanley Cup contenders, and they were very close to winning the President's Trophy last year. It was either them or the Jets. I can't remember who actually ended up winning it. I know it was either them or the Winnipeg Jets, though. But Logan Thompson played out of his mind last year. I like how they got Jacob Chikrin. He played good from the blue point. John Carlson was good. And obviously, when you talk about the Capitals, you got to talk about the leading goal scorer in history of the NHL, Alex Ovechkin, and he will probably be his last year. I'm not going to lie, either this or 2 years down the road. And I think they're going to be playing balls to the walls every single face-off, every single draw, every single penalty kill, every single power play. Because it's a shame Alex Ovechkin only has one Stanley Cup. So they're going to be cup contenders. And then playoff, we're going to give one of the last playoff spots to the Winnipeg Jets, the last team that we are rating. Now, they definitely could be in cup contention, but they did lose Nicola Ehlers, and that will hurt. Hopefully the Jets have Jonathan Taves play like he did in some of his older days, but the deciding factor is that how Connor Hellebuyck will play in the playoffs. I mean, Hellebuyck, you've got to be more clutch in the playoffs. Like, you had a brilliant season last year. You won the Hart Trophy and the Vezina, and then the year before that, you also won the Vezina. And you are getting benched for Eric Comrie 2 or 3 times in the playoffs just because of poor performance, not injury, because of poor performance. Dude, that is inexcusable, especially for what the league MVP was. So, league MVP and you're getting benched because you can't play in a playoff game. That is sad. Connor Hellebuyck, you need to figure that out. Now, obviously, it's a shame. I like Josh Morrissey. I like him actually a lot. I used to call him Josh Norrisy because I was like, I give him the Norris. I don't think he's really quite that caliber of winning the Norris, obviously, but it was just a little joke I did. But anyway, that is me ranking every team in the tier list. Make sure you go ahead, leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys are watching on YouTube. If you guys listen on Spotify, I hope you guys enjoyed. Even though you guys couldn't see, I did tell you guys, everybody. So go ahead. I'll actually go ahead and tell you guys, everyone. So Stanley Cup contenders are going to be the Carolina Hurricanes, Colorado Avalanche, then the Dallas Stars, Edmonton Oilers, Tampa Bay Lightning, Vegas Golden Knights, Washington Capitals. Then in the playoffs, you got the Florida Panthers, Los Angeles Kings, Minnesota Wild, New Jersey Devils, Ottawa Senators, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Winnipeg Jets. Wild card hunt. Now keep in mind, this doesn't mean everyone's going to make it. This is just people who will be close, somewhat close. Wild card hunt will be the Anaheim Ducks, Buffalo Sabres, Columbus Blue Jackets, Montreal Canadiens, New York Rangers, St. Louis Blues, Utah Mammoth, and the Vancouver Canucks. Now the bad category is going to be the Calgary Flames, Detroit Red Wings, New York Islanders, Philadelphia Flyers, San Jose Sharks, Seattle Kraken. Now rebuilding is going to be the Boston Bruins, Chicago Blackhawks, Nashville Predators, and Pittsburgh Penguins. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I was saying earlier, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. If you guys watch this on Spotify, I hope you guys were still able to enjoy. Give us 5 out of 5 stars. And let us know if you guys enjoy these mini episodes, and we'll do more of them for you guys. See you guys in the next one.